Hello.
Hey, this is Julian from Sound FM. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Okay, so we're on the air. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us about the case of Seamus Daly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come on and talk about Seamus Daly today. My name's Cáit Trainor. I'm from County Armagh, not too far from where Seamus was actually living before he was arrested. I'm a Republican activist and a human rights activist in Ireland. Seamus Daly is a man who is currently in jail, held on remand by the British government for the Omagh bomb. Now, a lot of your listeners will have probably heard about the Omagh bomb. It was publicised worldwide, and it's still going on to this day, inquiries and all that type of thing. But what I want to talk about is why Seamus Daly is in jail and the potential that Seamus Daly has absolutely no involvement with the Omagh bomb, and the continued imprisonment of Seamus Daly on evidence that is over 15 years old was put to him in the past, and he was found to have no case to answer whatsoever. And the fact that nobody, the media, public representatives, nobody is actually speaking out about this because it's about the Omagh bomb. People are afraid to talk about it because, as I said, I released a statement last week questioning Seamus Daly's ongoing incarceration. And then, as I said, how if you question the Omagh bomb, it's akin to Holocaust denial. People are so afraid of being judged, or by, supporting Seamus Daly would be by default supporting the Omagh bomb. So convinced are they that, Seamus Daly has some kind of involvement, which there is no evidence of at the moment. So, yeah, as I say, thank you so much for letting us come on here. You're one of the kind of brave few that will allow this case to be spoke about.
So, how long has he been in jail so far?
Well, Seamus Daly was arrested last April, so he's been in jail 1 year so far. And what's interesting about the case is that the RUC, PSNI, have told the court that Seamus Daly was basically in hiding, that they couldn't find him for a number of years. But that flies in the face of reality. Seamus Daly was living quite openly with his wife, who was pregnant, expecting a new baby. And in the north as well, I may add, in County Armagh, which is in the 6 occupied counties, Seamus Daly was taking his pregnant wife to the hospital to give birth, and in the car park of the hospital, a crack team of British police and other security services descended on this car while this woman was in the middle of labour, I may add, and removed her husband and took him to Antrim Serious Crime Suite for questioning while she had to go on into the hospital and give birth on her own without her husband. So far he has actually been in jail 1 year. He has been up in court a number of occasions. And what's interesting about the case is, just to give you a bit of background, Seamus Daly was arrested in 1999 in connection with the Omagh bomb. And all evidence was put before him, and it was decided that Seamus Daly had no case to answer. 15 years later, Seamus Daly was arrested again with not one scrap of new evidence, and this time they say he has a case to answer. That flies in the face of justice, where people who have been before the police, being interviewed and let out, can't go around and live their normal life without the fear of being taken off the street and through into the British police cell to suit the whims of the current British government, because the Omagh bomb is such a high profile and sensitive case. The Omagh families, obviously, and certainly all of us have sympathy and compassion with these people, are quite adamant against the British government that they need to get someone for this case. The British government, the police, and all other people who are concerned in the investigation into the Omagh bomb are so incompetent and have absolutely no evidence against anybody in this case. They are prepared to take anybody that fits the bill in order to keep the public quiet, in order to keep the families quiet, and in order to make it look like they are undertaking a serious investigation into the Omagh bomb. For Irish Republicans, we know from history that the British government have a poor track record of justice in Ireland. British justice in Ireland is non-existent. If you look back at cases like the Guildford 4, the Birmingham 6, the British government have proven in the past that they are prepared to get anybody just to close cases and get this paperwork off their desk. And it is my belief, and it is the belief of many other people, that Seamus Daly is being used as a scapegoat in order to close the case of the Omagh bomb, which has been dragging on for over 15 years.
One interpretation I have about the Omagh bomb, just from what I've noticed, is that it's being used as a way of discrediting republicanism. From my own experience, when we tried to bring Francis Mackey and others over here, half the newspaper articles about them being denied entry in Canada based on U.S. law was about the Omagh bombing. And any time that anything comes up about republicanism, it's like the Omagh bomb this, the Omagh bomb that, and then they show these pictures of these dead bodies to sort of put in everyone's mind the idea that republicanism equals all these dead bodies, and sort of as a way of I don't know the proper word for this, not necessarily fear-mongering, but a way of discrediting maybe. And anytime republicanism comes up, there's at least one or two paragraphs about the Omagh bombing. What would you say to that?
I would agree with you 100%. The Omagh bombing was 15 years ago, and quite commonly what you will hear in the media is that the Omagh bombing was the single worst atrocity that happened during the war in the Six Counties. Again, that's propaganda, number one, because it's actually not true. The biggest single loss of life that happened in Ireland was actually the Monaghan and Dublin bombings, which was carried out by loyalists at the behest, we believe, of the British government. The British government and the Free State government are covering up what happened in the Dublin and Monaghan bombings, where it was 30 odd people actually lost their lives in that occurrence. So number one, they tell barefaced lies to the public. Well, maybe that's a bit strong, barefaced lies. I would actually say that they twist the truth in order to suit their own agenda, because those bombings happened in two different places, but they certainly were coordinated under one operation. Yes, the Omagh bomb has been used as a way to undermine republicanism, to make Republicans look like somehow we're savages that want to go around killing pregnant women and stuff like that. But if you look further into the Omagh bomb, there are questions as to what actually happened that day, what the state involvement is into that. The Omagh bomb families themselves have questions around state involvement in the Omagh bomb. If you look at the benefits, who did the Omagh bomb benefit? It benefited the British government and the so-called peace process, which was signed just literally weeks before, around Easter time on Good Friday. So I would agree with your analysis there that the media love to bring up the Omagh bomb when they're talking about Republicans, and it goes back to what I was saying about the Holocaust denial. Nobody will dare speak up when the words Omagh bomb are used, because if you do, you are to be criminalised. It's McCarthyism. It's like McCarthy, during the 50s when they were doing the trial against the communists. If you spoke up for the communists, you must be a communist. So if you speak up for Republicans, if you speak up for those who are interned, you must be somehow involved. You must be a militant Republican. So therefore, there is a culture of fear that the British government, backed up by their colleagues in Stormont, which includes Provisional Sinn Féin and others, promote a culture of fear among the Irish people. And the media is serving that agenda very well in places like Canada, America, Australia, and other places that the Irish diaspora would congregate. So I would totally back up that analysis that you've just gave.
Getting back to the case of Seamus Daly, he's been in jail now for a year. One of the arguments that the media put forward was that the reason it took so long for them to come and arrest him was that he was in hiding or some bullshit like that. My understanding was that he was living in plain sight, living his life and doing all sorts of like regular everyday thing before they picked him up.
Yeah.
And he's been on remand for a year so far without, having the evidence go in front of him. Do you want to comment a little bit on this and about remand being used as a way of taking people out of the struggle, imprisoning them, and all of that?
Yeah. Yes, you're quite right. Seamus Daly was living openly. Seamus Daly openly got married in the intervening years from the Oma bomb that he wasn't involved in, I may add. Was living an open family life, building around his home, socialising in the local area, and it's just absolutely ridiculous that the police or anybody else would expect us to believe that Seamus Daly was living in hiding. I mean, I am a local person in Armagh. If I had wanted to get Seamus Daly for some reason, I would have been able to find him, and I don't have the technology or the 50p touts that the PSNI or UC have. So first of all, I believe that was used as a way of making sure that the judge would refuse Seamus Daly bail as a potential flight risk, and that's what my opinion would be, and I think that would be the opinion of the family and Seamus himself. Internment by remand is absolutely rampant in Ireland. It is internment. Whatever way you want to dress it up, it is absolutely internment. And one notable thing is the person who served the longest period of internment by remand was a man called Sean Hoey, who was arrested for, guess what, the Oma bomb. And he was held on remand for 4 years. When he got to trial, there wasn't a scrap of evidence against that man, and that man had to be released. He was acquitted entirely with no case to answer. This was another man who was in the same shoes as Seamus Daly is in now. And what I dread to believe would happen is that Seamus Daly would face another 3 years behind bars like Sean Hoey did for the same charges of the Oma bomb. So internment by remand is absolutely rampant, as I say. It has been used to create a fact in the past against people like Marion Price, Martin Corey, and others, and there's an upwards trend. It continues to happen. There is no sign that this is going to abate, that anybody is intervening. The law, the British government, the provisionals, SDLP, DUP are all turning a blind eye to the fact that at any time the British police force in Ireland can come and take an Irish man or woman out of their home and throw them into a British jail in Ireland and keep them for upwards of 4 years. I think that in the Western world that is frowned upon, and the West would certainly be kicking and screaming if this was going on in any other place in the world, although they're very quick to talk about the human rights abuses that go on in places like, Korea or other places, but they are happy to turn the blind eye when it's happening on their front door. Internment by remand is something that is a big campaign in Ireland for Republicans, and something that we are constantly trying our best to highlight. But where we are hitting a brick wall constantly is that the mainstream media are so tied up in the status quo and the peace process and the British government and the Free State government that we are completely ignored, and the media will give us absolutely no airtime again. No airtime at all, sorry. And again, it's radio stations like this, small as they may be, that really do help the Republican cause in Ireland. And, just while we are talking about the subject, this is a great radio station, and more of it, please, because, people in Ireland are in desperate need of a voice all over the world, and it is services like this that really do help to contribute to the overall, highlighting of human rights abuses. So, you should pat yourself on the back, really.
Today we're having a letter writing night for Irish Republicans, and one of the people we're thinking of writing to, we are writing to the Cregavin too. We are writing to Christine Connors, is Seamus Daly, and if you can Facebook me his info, that would be cool. But tell us what else we can do in Canada to support people like Seamus.
I mean, the main thing that you can do is not to be afraid to talk about it. Do not allow yourselves to be censored or frightened into submission by your government. You know, reaching out to Irish Republicans is so important. Creating a camaraderie with Irish Republicans. Supporting the prisoners by, I know you hold protests and pickets over there, and that is so, you know, the people in Ireland are so grateful for that. Just to continue highlighting letter writing campaigns, as I say, as you were speaking about there, are fantastic. You know, writing to your local media as well, and, you know, crossing your fingers and hoping that they might give you a couple of column inches in the local paper about what's going on in Ireland. And I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't know an awful lot about the setup in Canada. But, you know, if you can lobby your own local politicians, if they are worthwhile, you know, lobbying, that's certainly something to look at. But I know that in the Western world, one corrupt government is as bad as the other, so I wouldn't hold much hope out on that either. But yeah, social media is a big thing these days as well. So there are various Twitter campaigns going on. There was one a couple of weeks ago that was, you know, it was middle of the road successful for the Craigavon 2 when Paul McAdam actually launched his song Justice for the Craigavon 2. You know, just spending that 99 cents and downloading his song, that is something that really contributes to the Irish Republican cause over here. And certainly we commend you for everything that you are doing and encourage you to keep it up. So that's really all the advice I would have at the moment.
Okay, any final words before we bring up Martin Rafferty?
Well, I suppose it's very apt that at this time of year we're coming up to Easter with the commemoration of the 1916 Rising. I suppose I would like to say Happy Easter to all your listeners, a happy revolutionary Easter to all your listeners, and just keep an eye on the commemorations. If any of you are going to your own Easter commemorations, I wish you all the best of luck with that. And I suppose when I've got this opportunity, we're looking forward to 2016, which is the centenary year of the 1916 Easter Rising, and I would ask everybody to get involved and to start getting organised to commemorate the great men and women that have died for Ireland in the best way that we can. So with that, I'll say Happy Easter.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Slán.